New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you here on a Friday evening. It's 5 o'clock on the Mountain Time Zone, and that does mean it is time for the good news, a weekly opportunity to come together and share in the good news stories that, well, they remind me of the humanity and the interconnectedness and the oneness of all life. I trust you'll find some inspiration in the stories that we're going to share tonight. Been watching a lot of really interesting media lately, or content lately, around media and the media bias. We're not going to be afraid of that bias. We're going to tell you right out. We believe we're here to support the creation of a world that works for all. And our first story tonight really is about that oneness and that connection. If you haven't seen this, this is an image that's going around on social media, and there's a number of them going around. People in Poland are leaving strollers, diapers, necessary items for women with children at train stations at the border between Ukraine and Poland. If you haven't heard, there's a lot of people trying to get the heck out of Ukraine lately. That's actually, in some ways, the good news here, that we're reminded we're in this together. We are one global family. And the women of Poland are leaving the resources and the transportation necessary. So as these women flee the violence that is being thrust upon them, they have what they need. I don't ever want to imagine needing to run away from my life and my country and my city and the place I live. And it's really nice to know that if that ever happens, somebody's going to step up and somebody's going to supply what we need and give us the opportunity and the resources that are necessary. Now, last week we reported on the work of Airbnb and what's happening in Airbnb. And now it just keeps growing and growing. So earlier in the month, as of the first part of the month, we were probably at about a 50 to 60,000 nights booked in cities outside of Ukraine for refugees to be able to get some housing. We're up to 150,000 of those temporary home bookings. And Airbnb, not only have people been donating money directly to the people, the owners or the hosts in Ukraine, but the Airbnb.org, which we reported on last week, is really increasing how much they've been able to raise. Over $1.9 million was raised just in the past week. Actually, I'm sorry, That was the 48-hour total. Um, we're up to 15 million that's happened through their Airbnb nonprofit arm. So this is it's a completely separate nonprofit from the company that is there to do humanitarian and good work. I A friend of mine recently said, "Never let a good." Then there's our image for that. Thank you, Diego, our producer, sharing some of these internet images we found today to get in support of this. Recently, a friend of mine said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." Now, you may have heard that before, and truly, it is in times of the darkness where it is the most important for us to prove these principles, to prove what we believe, and to prove what we believe works on the planet. I never know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So we have this amazing conglomeration or nexus of different events and pressures on the global economy and on the global supply chain and on gas prices and oil price and all of this, and we're not here to make anybody wrong. Personally, I'm not real big on oil companies, but we're not here to make them wrong, but we are here to call them to their greatness and help them to realize that something needs to change. Well, this next story isn't so much about yelling at oil companies as it is finding a way to alleviate some of the pain that they're creating. So if you have never heard of Willie Wilson, please allow me to introduce you to Willie Wilson. He's not in this picture. First off, Willie Wilson is a politician, a businessman turned politician turned back into businessman. And he is in Chicago area, and he did a gas giveaway today, I believe it is when it happened, or yesterday, and it was $200,000. Now it created a hullabaloo as far as people lighting up for miles, and there were some stipulations. You get $50 maximum. You can't buy the highest. You had to buy regular or mid grade. You couldn't buy high test. But um, and Willie and his work would give you 50 and would pay the $50. Well, that worked, and it worked so well that he's now upped it to $1 million and is scheduled to have another event in the Chicago area. Uh, yes, this needs to be better organized. I guess the lines were like 3 hours long and it impacted a lot of people. The point is, we can all do something. And whether you want to do it as a photo op or whether you want to do it silently and nobody knows about it, none of that really matters. What matters is that we each step up and say yes to doing what we're being called to do. Yes, Gina, there is only one. So if there's only one bank account, there's only one gas tank, and Willie's filling people's gas tanks, not himself directly, but he is filling up his gas tanks, and he's filling up gas tanks, and he's going to continue to do that. And this kind of kicked me into a place. Our dear friend Diego is putting up a banner here for us. This I don't want to share this. We don't want to watch this video because it's 10 minutes long. We'll share the link in the comments, and or you can copy that or just go look for it. But the whole idea is this is a great video of a gentleman who decides he's going to go to California and pay for people's gasoline at the pump. Now, we don't know all his motives. I don't know all of his background. And it's a great story because if you go watch that 10-minute video, I guarantee you're going to cry. And the reason I'm going to do that is because in watching it, not only did I feel the emotion, but you can see the people that are being gifted cash to pay for gasoline. This guy's hanging out at the gas station, walking up to people saying, "Do you mind if I pay for your gas?" and then he hands them a couple $100 in cash. It's California. Gas is expensive. I paid $60 for my tank last week. The whether he's doing it for publicity, which I think he is, or no matter what, now is the time. We are each on this planet being called to a greater expression of our oneness, of our interconnectedness, of our ability to give and to share and to live in the sense of trust that as I give, so shall I receive. I'm able to give and know that I receive. And that's what this ministry and the work that we're doing is built upon. I wouldn't, the vision of sharing the good news with you has been in my heart and my mind for a couple of decades now, probably. And well, now we're at a place where we can do that. And that requires all of us. I want to take a moment early in our broadcast today. I've got a ton of great stories for you. My co-host, Terry Paul Choice, is with us here today. She's going to share a few great stories with us as well. We've got a ton of good news, but none of that is going to happen without you, without you and your friends and the people that you love and the people that support what this network is doing. So we're going to take a quick moment and say thank you to those that support this network and invite you to become a part of how this all happens. Please stay with us. We're going to be right back with more of the good news in just a minute.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
With more of the good excuse me, we're back with more of the good news here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Rev Robert, and I want to thank you for being with us and say a great big huge thank you to my co-host Terry Paul Choice. She is here on most Friday evenings with us, except when she's doing things out in the world and need to be out in the world. We missed you last week, Terry, so I'm so grateful you're with us again this week. Thank you and welcome back.
Well, I had a visitor from Germany last week. So, so I'm sorry I didn't get to hang out with you guys, but I've got some stories for you this week. And
that's what we're looking forward to. So I'm going to get out of the way and let you take over.
Okay. All right. So I have, I kind of signed up for 3 stories, but I have to, ask for Diego's forgiveness because I'm throwing in another one that he doesn't have a banner for. And this is kind of comes off of the stroller story. There is a woman in North Vancouver, Canada, and she knows someone that works at a refugee center in Poland. And so she organized her neighborhood to purchase strollers, hundreds of packages of diapers, she was told that the women there really need like personal hygiene items. So this neighborhood got together, purchased all these items and more, and sent them by Amazon. And so they received them in Poland for these people. So I think it's a good idea. I don't know all of the details, but I like that idea, because shipping is definitely a problem getting things over there. But you know, it's unusual that I'm going to promote Amazon, folks, but we got to use it. So my first story is about a little teeny tiny marine microbe, and it's been discovered by Australian scientists. And this little teeny tiny thing absorbs carbon naturally, and they say that it's abundant around the world. The findings imply that the seas could capture carbon in unexpected places. It has long been known that seaweed and kelp are excellent carbon collectors. Experts estimate that, this is a big number, 10 gigatons of carbon dioxide will need to be removed from the atmosphere every year from now until 2050 in order to calm the climate crisis. So my next story also comes from Australia, and the company Hysata, that's Hysata, has invented a totally new electrolyzer to expand the use of hydrogen fuel. So green hydrogen has been used very infrequently because it's very, very expensive to produce. But it is one of the answers for a clean future. And the energy primarily they expect to be used for trucking, flying, steel manufacturing, and much more. This new method of creating green hydrogen has 95% efficiency and will cost much less than the old technology to produce green hydrogen. And my third one is something that applies to each and every one of us if we so choose, and it's about yoga. And yoga is an excellent form of exercise for many reasons. I do yoga several times a week, and I've been doing it for years. It helps with mental health, sleep, stress levels, chronic inflammation, and it also builds your muscles, your stamina, and your flexibility. Plus, when you go to a yoga class, it's a really nice social activity. You get to know other people, and just create a sense of community. Now, there's many different kinds of yoga. Some are very physical, some more than others. Some are almost like aerobics. Some are very relaxing, and some are primarily spiritual. I belong to one of those groups too, the Brahma Kumaris. All are excellent for you and should be done at least 30 minutes, 5 times a week. But for optimum health, you should combine your yoga with an aerobic activity. So that's it for me this week. And I'd like to invite you to listen to my radio show, which is called Feel the Flow. It's on New Thought Media Network Radio. And that's a station that plays positive music 24 hours a day. All right. Thank you. And it's all yours, Robert.
Thank you for being with us this evening, Terry. And just to let everybody else know, if you'd like to share with us your good news story, or you think you have a good news story you'd like us to cover, please let us know. Just send an email, goodnews@ntmedia.org. That's goodnews@ntmedia.org. Let us know the good news story you'd like us to cover. Or again, if you'd like to be a presenter and come on stage with us and come on air and share that good news story, let us know that as well. All right. Those that watch this program know that we really do like to talk about renewable energies and the future vision for how we're going to power this planet and all that. Our next story, a carbon negative plant opens in Turkey, turns turning algae into biojet fuels and more. We've talked about on this program over the past couple of years, and part of our podcast before we went to video, we've talked a lot about the idea of algae being turned into biofuel. It seems to be everywhere, and every time we turn around, there's another great story about this. This is coming out of obviously Turkey. It's a partnership funded by the government in Turkey and the European Union. And it's part of what's known as Project Independent. It's a biorefinery that is processing up to 1,200 tons of algae a year, is what they're projected to be able to do here. And it's part of a new, what people are calling a bioeconomy. I like that term, the bioeconomy. Ultimately, and this is more science than you guys know. You folks that watch, you know that I don't know the science, but I believe in the science. And the science is proving that we have a possibility here to really lower CO2 emissions and become carbon negative. The process itself is removing more carbon. It's not putting any carbon. This is cool stuff. And this is what we're about here on the Good News Network, is the opportunity to look at the stories that are changing the future projection of planet Earth. We are all in this thing together, and we're creating something new and unique. And one of the things that we're creating is a wholesale change away from carbon and fossil fuels. Now, I know we talked earlier about the good that's happening in the world on the human level, on the individual level, as far as gasoline and free gas, and that's all part of the carbon-based system. But we're also working towards the electric system as well. We can't just turn one on and the other off, all puns intended. But our next story, really feels like a great idea for EV vehicles. Now, for those that can afford EV vehicles at the moment, for the most part, live in the suburbs, have a garage, have a place to plug the vehicle in, and that's been the traditional model. I live in the suburbs. I don't live in the urban areas. I didn't even think about the concept of, what do you do if you don't own a garage? What do you do if you live in a city and you don't own a parking spot and you're working with on-street parking? Well, this next idea, think of it as just a big battery that you can wheel into your house, charge up, and wheel out and plug into your car in the morning. As I read this story, I thought, this is just one of those batteries that I buy for $10 or $15 to charge my phone when I'm going to be away from home for a little while. Zip Charge Go is the name of the company, and they're building an EV light battery, something that you can wheel, as you see there in the video, or excuse me, as you saw in the picture. Thank you, Diego, for bringing that back up. It looks a lot like a rollerboard for when you travel, and you can charge it up. I actually first thought, I'm going to need 2 or 3 of those. And you can just charge them all up, roll them down, and put them in the back of your car. Use them as sort of a spare gas tank, perhaps. They don't get. It's not a huge charge. It'll move your EV about 20 to 40 miles. And it plugs into your car. I'm sure there's going to be an example where we find out that, hey, you can plug it into the car and run it right off the battery. Because I don't know if I'd want to sit in my car for 30 minutes, getting the power from the battery to the car battery to make it run. So we got to make sure that it runs all the way through. Still good news, and it's still stories that we want to follow, and we'll keep you informed of as we go along. All right. A couple more before we break up. We head off into the rest of our evening here tonight. Our next story is also a really kind of wild and fun story. Andy Dix, let us introduce you to Andy Dix. Andy, kudos to Andy Dix for this story. He is a furniture. He's a woodworker, and he's always focused on furniture, but biking was his hobby. He lives in the Welsh borderlands of England and developed a wooden bicycle. Starts to create these bicycles and recognizes that what a lot of craftsmen have known forever, ash, the wood ash, which is not overly expensive, and is very reasonably priced actually. The ash also absorbs the vibrations, and Andy is quoted that his wooden ash bicycle is actually more comfortable to ride on gravel and bumpy roads than a carbon fiber bicycle. Now, anybody that's ever priced out a carbon fiber bicycle knows that they can get very expensive very quickly. And obviously, that's all manufactured. Andy is making this out of ash, out of wood. And what a great idea. Kudos to Andy. I think this is a great thing. All right, folks, before we take off tonight, a couple of a couple of those human interest pieces that I find so well. This happened recently here in Colorado, my adopted home state. A few friends went out and did a little backcountry tour. They took their dog with them, and as you can kind of tell from our headline here, it didn't end up so well, but it did end up well enough after time. The folks kicked off an avalanche. They couldn't find their dog. Miraculously, everyone did survive. All the humans survived the avalanche, and yes, the dog survived too. The folks gave up the search for their dog, went home. Search and rescue teams went out the next day to search the area for anyone else that might have been involved. Never saw any signs of the animal, and yet the dog made its way back to the trailhead. And they got a call the next afternoon saying, "Hey, I think we got your dog here," and she was at the trailhead. What an amazing! These things don't surprise me. I just like to share in them and remind each of us, because that's what this program is about, reminding each of us that these things are not miracles. This is the way it is. And life is the way it is. And it just was not this time for that soul, that doggy soul, to say goodbye. It was time to stick around. We'll see if we can follow up and catch up on that story as well. All right, our final story for the night. Yes, there is my bias in the media. I want to make sure we cover this story. Aaliyah Thomas is the first woman to win an NCAA Division I national title as a trans athlete. She swam the 500-yard freestyle in 4 minutes, 33.24 seconds. That was 1.75 seconds ahead of the second place swimmer, Emma Wyant. Congratulations to Emma for her efforts in that as well. And while it wasn't record breaking, it was a valiant effort. We know here on the Good News Network that the issue of gender equality in sports is an emerging conversation that must be had. And we want to celebrate this athlete for who she is and what she has been willing to experience and endure to help all of us see a new perspective on how we get to live life. This is good news, folks. We are leaving behind all of the past prejudices, all of the past biases, to work towards this vision of a world that works for all. I want to personally and as an organization give a huge shout out to Leah Thomas. as the first transgender person to win an NCAA Division I national championship. A national champion. Congratulations, Leah Thomas. All right, folks, I'm Rev Robert. I'm going to get out of here for now. We're going to share with you, before we go, just a couple of quick things about what else is happening here on the New Thought Media Network. Until next time, thanks for being with us. I wish you all the best. Until then, peace and blessings. Bye now.